Ah, the British royal family, the ultimate symbol of tea-drinking, corgi-loving, stiff-upper-lip Britishness. When we look at the king, we see a man who appears as indigenous to the British Isles as bad food and worse weather. But if you peel back the layers of history, you'll find that the current royal bloodline is about as British as a bratwurst. You see, for the last 300 years, the British throne has been occupied by a family of Germans who pulled off the greatest PR rebranding campaign in history. To understand how this not-so-hostile takeover happened, we must travel back to the late 17th century. That century was not kind to Britain. It suffered through the Great Plague, the Great Fire, and a decade-long civil war that saw England's king beheaded by Parliament. Just when things were starting to calm down, the Catholic James II decided that being friends with the Pope is okay again, triggering a revolution that got him deposed, though, unlike his dad, he at least kept his head. At the end of all the chaos, England and Scotland joined together to form the Kingdom of Great Britain, but not before swearing to never crown a Catholic ever again. Unfortunately, Great Britain's first monarch, the Protestant Queen Anne, had no surviving children who could inherit the crown. To be clear, it was not for lack of trying. Poor Anne endured 17 pregnancies, with only a single child surviving beyond infancy. This was a big problem, because Anne's closest living relatives were the exiled Stuarts, who were unrepentantly Catholic and were plotting their comeback in France. In fact, the next 50 heirs to the throne were all Catholic, so Parliament had to go all the way to claimant number 54 on the line of succession to find a Protestant. The claimant in question was an old lady called Sophia, a granddaughter of James I. Well into her 70s, this German aristocrat from the small German state of Hanover is the person Britain's Parliament found most suitable to be monarch. A classic example of parliamentarian competence that has unfortunately been greatly overshadowed since then. Sophia would have been the oldest British monarch ever to ascend the throne, but she sadly died of old age just 2 months before Queen Anne. And so the crown passed to Sophia's son, a 54-year-old German man named George Ludwig. He spoke virtually no English, having lived in Germany his whole life, and after claiming his crown in an awkward ceremony lost in translation, he spent the rest of his reign trying to stay back home in Hanover as much as possible. When he had to be in England, he invariably brought along his German mistresses, whom the emerging British press vividly named the Elephant and the Maypole. Nevertheless, the British put up with George I because even though he was German, at least he wasn't Catholic. His reign marked the beginning of the Hanoverian Dynasty, a distinctly German line of kings that would rule Britain for nearly 2 centuries. Now, while over time the family would assimilate and become more English, the dynastic politics of the Hanoverians remained sauerkraut-flavoured. But while sauerkraut might not be the best taste, our friends over at Holy have created the most delicious energy and hydration drinks by a large margin. Holy is a startup founded by 3 friends in Berlin with the aim of revolutionizing the soft drink industry, and they've been taking the market by storm. Unlike the heavy, sugary sludge you find in traditional soft and energy drinks, Holy has 0 sugar and filler ingredients and has fewer than 20 calories per serving. Because it's powder-based, it's not only better for the planet, but it's also much cheaper than buying cans, costing as little as 80 cents per portion. So you don't need to marry into royalty to afford it. It's never too late to get better drinking habits, and with Holy you'll get better energy and hydration drinks with a massive variety of delicious flavours. I myself have a soft spot for the citrusy Cobra, but there's plenty more to choose from. Best of all, you can grab the Holy Deluxe starter set, which includes a high-quality shaker and a variety of over 50 sachets to find your favorite flavor. So stop sipping on syrup and start drinking Holy by clicking the link in the description and using the code SideQuest5 to get €5 or pounds off your first order. Now, the Hanoverians were equally as consistent with their dating pool as we have been with drinking Holy this month. In fact, every single monarch of that line, from George I all the way to Queen Victoria, married a German spouse and simultaneously ruled the state of Hanover. So, ironically, the Victorian age, when the British Empire was at its height, had Britain's Queen talking to her husband in German every night. A fun fact about Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, was that he was her cousin. Actually, that's not a very fun fact, and neither is the painfully long name of his German dynasty, Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. When Victoria died in 1901, her son Edward VII inaugurated the reign of this much more German-sounding dynasty. And he also held multiple honorary ranks in the German military and absolutely loved vacationing in German spas. This was all well and good until 1914. Since King George V was the first cousin of the German Kaiser, the First World War put the British royal family in a very uncomfortable position. The king's name became a serious PR liability, especially once the Germans started bombing London with their Gotha G4 bombers. And so, in 1917, George V issued a royal proclamation declaring that his family would henceforth be known by the very British name of Windsor, after the castle. He also forced his relatives to anglicize their names too. The Battenbergs, for example, became the Mountbattens, stripping away the last linguistic traces of their heritage. When the Kaiser heard about his cousin's name change, he reportedly joked about renaming Shakespeare's play to The Merry Wives of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. But despite the jokes, the rebrand worked like a charm. The Windsors successfully reinvented themselves as the quintessential British family, navigating the chaos of the 20th century while their German cousins lost their thrones. So, while they may wrap themselves in the Union Jack and wave from the balcony of Buckingham Palace, the Windsor dynasty is, at its heart, a German success story. They redefined the British monarchy, just as our friends over at Holy are redefining soft drinks. Make sure to click the link in the description and use the code SideQuest5 to save €5 or pounds on your starter set to fuel your next dynastic takeover. But now, thank you, my friends, for watching this brief genealogy of our favorite royal imports. If you want to help us maintain our own dynasty here on YouTube, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Make sure to like and subscribe for more tales of political intrigue, and stay tuned for the next biologically confusing episode of SideQuest. Why was Queen Victoria afraid of her breakfast? She feared the worst.